What is up, everybody? Welcome to the pre-party, a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. My name is J Cal, and each and every Tuesday I'm here with you, that hashtag NWA fam, and we're here to talk all things NWA, NWA Power, the 74th anniversary show, the Fan Fest that's going to be coming up. It is a good time to be a fan of the NWA. Let me tell you, Daddy. Welcome to the show, everyone. I'm glad you're here. I see we already got a full house. NWA Gold is here. Our pal Tim and Jeremy Wrestling with the MMA is here. The great Hisa is here. And I have a pillow from last night. I need to move that. Sorry. Michael Manning's in the house. I haven't seen Michael in a while. Welcome, pal. Where you been? How you been? Everybody, so good for y'all to be here. I do appreciate you being here each and every Tuesday as we talk about what's good in the NWA. And, yeah, man, happy that you're all here. Hope you're having a good Tuesday. I did. I had donuts today, so I'm feeling great. Feeling great. Actually, that's not true. Donuts always make me feel like crap, but Nevertheless, we will prevail. Hey, so normally what I like to do is as we enter this pre-party, I like to talk about what's been happening in the NWA. I like to talk about where we see things going. We like to kind of not only just talk about what's happening, but kind of formulate plans of where we think things are going. Always incorrect in our guesses, always wrong in our assumptions. You look at the NWA as it currently stands, and we have a growing roster. We're seeing new faces show up all the time. Of course, things are changing because the whole landscape of pro wrestling is changing. And it's kind of weird because as a fan of the National Wrestling Alliance, we have to admit something, that we are a niche fan base. We're very niche. We are a subset of a subset of a subset. If you like mixed martial arts, or if you like combat sports, then you go to wrestling, which is a subset. And then, we're not talking about the WWE or New Japan or AEW. So we're not even the mainstream pro wrestling, but we're the much, much smaller niche. So it's kind of fun that there isn't a lot of us who are watching the NWA religiously. I mean, and that's not meant to be an insult to the NWA, but of course, the WWE's been consistently producing their kind of content for the last 40 years. The NWA has gone through many ownership changes in the last 40 years, and we're kind of lucky for it to be where it is now. Now, that's not saying that it couldn't be something greater than what it is, but it's so much, it seems like every time that the NWA starts getting this real positive momentum in the last, even the last 20 years, every time it feels like something is positive is going to happen, something will make the NWA take a side step or a back step. Sometimes it's one step forward, two steps back, if you guys follow me. For example, when the WCW, Ted Turner WCW, finally withdrew its membership from the NWA, it felt like, I think if you would have been in the board of directors with the NWA back then, or if you've been following real close, you have known, like, it seemed like the NWA and the WCW relationship was finally back on track, where they reintroduced the NWA tag team titles in like 92, and that they were having these events where, they were doing these co-promotional events with New Japan Pro Wrestling for the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship. Now, back then it was represented by the Dome Globe, excuse me, not the Dome Globe, Big Gold. It was represented by Big Gold. So you had there was that controversial finish in Japan where I believe it was, Tatsuji Fujinami defeated Ric Flair, and he kept the what they called it, the NWA Championship, and Ric Flair kept the WCW Championship. And so that seemed like things were going in the right direction. And then, the NWA had some more demands from World Championship Wrestling, from Ted Turner, and they ended up just ending that relationship, which, to be honest, could have been the death knell for the NWA, but it wasn't, right? Because then just a few years later, you had guys like Jim Cornette hosting NWA events. You had Howard Brody doing NWA events down in Florida. You had Dennis Coralluzzo running NWA shows in New Jersey, keeping that NWA name alive, such that, even after the relationship with the WWE in the late 90s, the NWA kind of built itself back up on the wings of Chris Candido, Dan the Beast Severin, Steve Corino, right? We're talking about Mike Rapata, Sabu, really kind of helped carry that brand in the dark years, not to mention guys like Hashimoto, or why do I run blank on names sometimes? Ogawa. Yes, I got it before you guys got to it. So these guys kind of carried the NWA on its back for decades. All the while building up the NWA brand, making it meaningful, making these promotions that are much smaller. But I mean, having Dan Severn walk into the octagon with 10 pounds of gold, or into a WWE arena holding that title, was certainly meaningful. Having Noya Ogawa defend that title in New Japan Pro Wrestling, again, very meaningful. The standard bearers for the NWA in that time really kept the NWA meaningful. And then, of course, it steps back a little bit during those leaner years with Mike Rapata. Then we get Impact Wrestling, TNA, Total Nonstop Action, and Jeff Jarrett and Jerry Jarrett decides to license the NWA World Title and Tag Titles, and it seems like a very fruitful relationship at first. And as it progresses, Impact gets tired of dealing with the NWA, to be quite frank. Impact wanted to put the belt on its champions. The NWA wanted access to those champions. It got to be much of a hullabaloo, and that relationship eventually ended. And so everyone thought, oh, that's it. That's the end of the NWA. But lo and behold, you had promoters like David Marquez. You had Tony Givens. You had Fred Rubenstein. You had Ken Taylor. You had Joe Price. Well, I guess he's more of the earlier era. But you had a lot of these wrestling promoters who were putting out a really good product, especially in Hollywood. You had Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, which was an NWA program, and NWA Smoky Mountain with Tony Givens. You had NWA Mountain State out in West Virginia. Then you had like NWA on Fire in the Northeast, and there was this real a real good time for the NWA where you'd see the world champions again traveling. You'd have Adam Pearce defending that title across the globe. You had Blue Demon Jr. carrying that title all around the world. Even the Sheik took the NWA 10 pounds of gold to Japan. There was a lot of forward progression, a lot of good movements, and then there was the internal debates inside the NWA, and essentially the membership blew up, and we had a lot of litigation, which essentially led to the old LLC Pro Wrestling Organization transferring ownership to the new LLC, which was International Wrestling Corp. That was Bruce Tharp's NWA. So you had this new NWA with the same kind of most of the same pieces. A lot of the promotions left. A lot more new promotions opened up in the Mid-South area, Texas, Tennessee, and you had the NWA continue to grow. Willie Bowen says Brent Albright, and I did not mean to leave out Brent Albright. His title defenses in Ring of Honor against Adam Pearce were pretty amazing stuff. But then you had all this growth in those southern states, and that's where we find guys like Jack Stane and Tim Storm, and then we get a world championship runs with Rob Conway, Jack Stane, Satoshi Kojima, Hiroshi Tenzin, and of course, lastly, Tim Storm, who carried that title with so much dignity, class, and respect, right? So for Tim Storm, I mean, he was built on the backs of every single champion before him. And he bridged the gap from the International Wrestling Corporation to the Lightning One era of the NWA. Billy Corgan buys the NWA, and a lot of the wrestling promoters at the time were caught off guard. The old ownership didn't really inform the members, the licensees, of what were happening, and of course, the NWA, not even having to, honored all of those old agreements until they expired in October of 2017. And that's when everything kicked off. You had Tim Storm bringing the 10 pounds of gold to Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. You had Nick Aldis invading Hollywood to challenge Tim Storm for that title. And that title, that creation of that feud, the first real feud of the Lightning One era, carried over to an episode of Championship Wrestling from Hollywood where they had title defenses. The 10 pounds of gold was powered by that feud. And, of course, the title match, the second time these two would face off, would be in a Combat Zone wrestling ring in Voorhees, New Jersey, where they weren't very much a fan of the history, tradition, and legacy of the NWA, but you saw the passion that Tim Storm brought to the NWA, and that passion that now Nick Aldis was bringing to the NWA. And, of course, that kicked off the Aldis Crusade, and everything changed from that point forward. So every time the NWA has taken a step back, it's taken a step forward. It's never gone away. I mean, it's had to sidestep sometimes. It had to change some things. We had the 70th anniversary show. We had All In. We had these moments where these incredible things happened. Nick Aldis defended the title in China. Nick Aldis defended the title throughout the United Kingdom and throughout the United States and in Australia. He did it all in a matter of months. And the NWA was really moving forward. We were starting to get pay-per-views. And we had Power, the first 2 seasons of Power. And all of this was so good, right? And all this was happening. And then a global pandemic puts everything on pause. And again, the NWA takes a step backwards. But tonight on Power, the NWA takes a step forward. And I'm saying this to you not as a vehicle of the National Wrestling Alliance, but as a vehicle of you, the fans. I believe tonight is the night that the NWA takes another major step forward. I mean, we saw it with Aldis's second run as World's Heavyweight Champion. We saw when Trevor Murdoch finally won the 10 pounds of gold. And then we saw it again when Matt Cardona upset the world by winning the 10 pounds of gold. I think we're heading towards another big step forward. And I'm talking about the 74th anniversary show where the World's Heavyweight Champion is going to have to defend his title against one of the following: Brian Myers, the Pope, Thom Latimer, Chris Adonis, Nick Aldis, or Tim Storm. It's the first episode of Power. Tim Storm challenged Nick Aldis. Nick Aldis goaded him into the challenge and saying, hey, the stakes need to be high. And if you're going to get this shot at my 10 pounds of gold, you're going to get a shot at this world's title. The only way you're going to do it is you're going to put your ability to challenge for it on the line. And what was great storytelling, because remember, Tim Storm was carrying the NWA on his back in those leaner years in 2016. They weren't competing in New Japan anymore. That title was, if it was in Japan, it wasn't in, the top venues. It was in the indies of Japan. And Tim Storm was wrestling against Jerry Lawler, but it wasn't at the Madison Square Garden. It was, in a rec hall in Alabama. And that's not to shortchange Tim Storm at all. And please don't take it that way. But Tim Storm was the man who carried this brand on his back while Billy Corgan and Dave Lagana and Dave Marquez were fortifying their plan to relaunch the NWA. And so when Tim Storm lost the 10 pounds of gold to Nick Aldis, we all thought that might be the end of the road for Tim Storm. But alas, he was never jettisoned. He was never kicked out. He was never looked down upon. In fact, when the opportunity came for him to challenge for that title one last time, he took it. And what seemed like would be an appropriate match where Nick Aldis and Tim Storm would be a battle of combatants and it would be a lot of respect, very much akin to what Ring of Honor would present, turned into kind of like a screw job where Strictly Business more or less became involved. And so when Tim Storm lost that title, we thought that was it. We thought that was the end. No more Tim Storm. But he's always been here, just like the NWA continues and keeps I just messed up my words. Keep pushing forward, right? And so tonight, this big step will happen. One of these men will advance in this tournament. I'm not telling you that Tim Storm's going to walk out tonight the number one contender for the 10 pounds of gold. I'm not telling you that Nick Aldis is going to walk out the number one contender for the 10 pounds of gold. This is the first round of these tournament matches. I'm not sure how they will play out following the next week, but the race for the chase kicks off tonight. And I think it's a good time, guys. I think this is a big deal for the NWA. When you look at that roster, now sure, Brian Myers has done almost nothing for the NWA. He's had one appearance and he lost to Nick Aldis. But he does have some name value, and he is an above average pro wrestler. But he's going to be in the ring taking on the Pope. Again, a man who carried the television title, carried the NWA's mid card all through the rebirth, if you will, after the pandemic pause. You've got Thom Latimer, probably the most underutilized guy on the roster, a man who could have been world champion multiple times. Chris Adonis. You guys know that Chris Adonis, two-time national champion Chris Adonis, who challenged for the title at Always Ready, and then flew to Australia, won a championship and a promotion on Australia, flew back to California to wrestle Jordan Clearwater for the United Wrestling Network World Championship, then flew back to be a part of I got a little bit backwards there. Then flew back to be a part of the Always Ready pay-per-view and the television tapings that took place there. So what I guess what I'm trying to say here is, like, you've got some serious talent involved in the race for chase. And I firmly believe, like, this is the time that the NWA is going to make that big step forward. any one of these guys in the ring with Trevor Murdoch at the 74th anniversary show is sure to be a great match. But, oh, man, I'm super excited, and I hope you guys are too. I'm going to read some of your comments because I kind of ignored you guys for the first, 20 minutes of the show. But let's and I left the Brent Albright comment up for a while. So, yeah, everyone, thanks for being here. Michael Manning says, I watched Power the next day. Sadly, can't watch live. Still great fun to watch. Michael Manning, I agree, man. And I don't always watch Power live, too. A lot of times I'll watch it on Wednesday or Thursday before the pre-party. Before the Alliance Guys podcast. That way I have time to kind of really digest it and write about it and think about it. But I think it is a lot of fun. Fiona says, Power is legit the only wrestling show I watch every week. I know for a lot of us, it's just Power. Me personally, I do watch a lot of championship wrestling from Hollywood, whether I'm there part of the live TV tapings or watching it on YouTube. And I know a lot of folks watch that as well as Memphis, the United Wrestling Network sister promotion. Willie reminded me about Satoshi Kojima. I think I got Kojima, but maybe not. Fiona says she's excited to see Tim and Nick go at it again tonight. And I mean, I am too, right? Like, when was the last time we saw that? 3 years ago? And one-on-one? I mean, like, look, that is the genesis of the Lightning One era of the NWA. And I don't mean to make this more important. I'm not trying to overstate, but I definitely don't want to understate at the same time. This is a very important match. Tim Storm, who we thought would never challenge for the 10 pounds of gold ever again, has a chance. An opportunity. One shot. I'm not going to do Eminem. I'm not going to rap Marshall Mathers, but you guys get what I'm saying here. This is a big deal. Sean Mega says Kurt Hawkins' era will begin. God, I hope not. Like, look, he's a talented guy. I can't take that away from him, but I don't want Kurt Hawkins' era to begin. Although it would be interesting if it did, right? If Kurt Hawkins wins it all, beats Trevor Murdoch, and then when Matt Cardona is finally healthy to come back, it's Hawkins versus Cardona. Brian Myers versus Cardona. NWA Gold says, love the history. Onwards and upwards for the NWA. Now is the time, man. The 74th anniversary show is just a few months away. Like, literally, not even a full month away. We're talking about a month and maybe a month and a couple of days. We're almost there. 6 weeks away? Let's go with 6 weeks. We're almost there. Once we get to that anniversary show, like, this is the opportunity where they can showcase over 2 nights everything that's good about the NWA, everything that's proper, everything that we've enjoyed, everything that we've said is amazing. Maybe we'll have La Rebellion back challenging for the tag titles. Maybe we'll have Jax Day defending that national title or Tyrus defending the TV title. Everything that we've enjoyed about the NWA for the last few years will be spotlighted at that Race for the Chase. The second time they return to the St. Louis area, second time they return to the Chase for the anniversary show. This is a big deal. And there's so much potential. And I know, like, this is the hype train right now. Your boy Jake How's excited. We're talking NWA. But there's so much potential here that can be realized at the 74th anniversary show, August 27th, August 28th, that can really change or redefine what the NWA is today. And I maybe this is hyperbole. I'm not trying to be overzealous when I'm speaking about this, but now's the time. Let's see. Myers represents the Cardona family. That's why he's there. Simple. I mean, that's true. That's true, Lamb. Mega says, I watch reality wrestling every Sunday. I've been wanting to watch reality wrestling. I just haven't had time. Sean, DM me later. Tell me what you think about it, what you like, what you don't like. Our pal Jeremy's all in on the United Wrestling Network. I know Lamb is too. Willie says, if they make another Ghostbusters movie, Tyrus should play the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Let's see. Dave Scooby says, hopefully the StarCast Ric Flair event can give the NWA a bump for 74. I mean, so far, right? Like, I haven't seen any NWA names linked to that Ric Flair card. And I don't know if Ric Flair versus Trevor Murdoch for the 10 pounds of gold makes a lick of sense to me. And Nick Aldis said that he was asked to be on the show, but so far nothing. Radio silence about that. Jeremy says wrestling or Lamb, they're putting on quality content week in and week out. The chat is engaged and invested. I love it. So yeah, man. I mean, this is a very interesting time. Now, these matches were taped a couple weeks ago following the Always Ready pay-per-view. So some of the stuff is already known, right? But I don't know, and I haven't seen spoilers for any of it. So tonight, I mean, we're having the start of the race for the chase, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I don't know what we're going to see, but you know, as we head towards that 74th anniversary show, you know, I just have this very confident feeling that this is going to be a very good show. So on tonight's Power, it's not just the race for the chase. We're having a couple of different matches here tonight. Of course, one that I'm very excited to see is the #1 Contenders match. Now, the flyer, the graphic here does not volunteer whether this is a #1 Contenders match or not. It just it says just a singles match. But you know, if you were paying attention to last week's confrontation between the two, it seems like it was made a #1 Contenders match. So it's kind of hard to figure out for sure what the NWA is going to do here. But obviously, Allysin Kay and obviously, why am I having a brain fart here? Obviously, Kilynn King have potential to be #1 contenders. Kilynn King had an amazing match at Always Ready against Kamille. And of course, when you look at Allysin Kay and her accolades in the NWA and beyond, she's a proven tough competitor. She is a former women's world champion. She's the first ever women's tag team champion. I guess you could say she's the first woman in the NWA to hold the tag and world championship. So that is saying something. Of course, she was the first person to hold that Burke title too, which is historic and meaningful. I'm expecting a great match here. I don't know who's going to win. You know, I would assume that the Hex will be around to tag team a little bit longer. So if that's the plan, then I can see Kilynn King going over and being that #1 contender leading up to the 74th anniversary show. Or if the NWA wants to be different and do something radically different, put AK in that match. You got to remember, Allysin Kay was really kind of put up against it. She came in to anchor the women's division after Jazz had to step away from in-ring competition for a while. You know, she being Allysin Kay, defeated Santana Garrett at the NWA Crockett Cup 2019. Now, before then, Jazz was the Women's World Championship, and we were all kind of expecting the matchup between Allysin Kay and Jazz. That never happened. And then Allysin Kay, of course, as champion, debuted on Power as the champion. But, you know, something dynamic and special happened when Thunder Rosa appeared in the NWA. It really changed a lot. And I think specifically, if it wasn't for the fact that that Thunder Rosa was so over with that crowd and such a phenomenal athlete, that we might be talking about a second or a third title reign for Allysin Kay. And let's not forget, too, that the global pandemic really did put a pause on what the NWA was trying to do. So we don't know what would have happened next between Thunder Rosa and Allysin Kay or Kamille or anything else, because everything just kind of got paused and everything got pushed back together when we came back. So a matchup between Allysin Kay and Kilynn King, I think, is going to be phenomenal. I think this will be one of the best women matches we've seen all year, if not even match of the night. We'll have to wait and see if there's some stiff competition tonight, because not only do you have the #1 contenders for the women's championship, but you also have Thom Latimer and Chris Adonis. Now, we've seen these two wrestle each other before. This is nothing new. Good friends, better enemies. I don't know if this is like a poster-worthy event, but Thom Latimer and Chris Adonis have squared off both as a team and as opponents multiple times. And I'm expecting another great match between these two. Now, like I said, I was reading off Adonis's accolades as of late. The guy has been a genuine world traveler when it comes to competing in the NWA. He recently again challenged for the national championship in between tours of Australia and wrestling for the United Wrestling Network's World Championship. He'll be heading back to Australia, I believe, this weekend, where he's taking part in more his first title defense out there. So it's pretty damn cool, if you ask me, that he's going to be a part of this event. And of course, Thom Latimer, as I said earlier on in the show, one of the most underutilized guys on the roster. If there is anyone better on the roster who hasn't had a significant singles run, you have to point him out to me, because I just don't know. Thom Latimer and Royce Isaacs were very dominant as a tag team that was basically thrown together. Remember when they were the wild card, when they were paired together at the 2019 Crockett Cup, they won a battle royal to gain entry into that Crockett Cup. Now, they didn't win the Crockett Cup. Don't get me wrong. That was PCO and Brody King, but they put on a very dominant showing in that tournament, even though that they lost. They're the ones that beat the War Kings, for crying out loud, Jack Stane and Anthony Mayweather. So you have to give the devil their due, and that was really powered by Royce Isaacs. But it was, Royce Isaacs was very much an important part of that team, but it was on the power of Thom Latimer. Thom Latimer was certainly the brute strength in that group, and they won most of their matches with just brutality and being tough. So now that Thom Latimer has another opportunity to challenge for that World's Heavyweight Championship. Now, we know he had a shot at Always Ready. He was able to get into that main event to declare a new World's Heavyweight Champion. This is the second time. There's how many more chances will Thom Latimer have to be viable for the 10 pounds of gold? This might be it for him, which makes him very deadly and very dangerous. Real quick, I'm going to get to some more of your guys' comments before we finish the rest of the matches for tonight. Lamb says, I'm curious to see how NWA Road to Anniversary will be. Yeah, I don't know. I'm curious too. I don't really know. Ben says, what's up, bad, nasty, sexy boys? Sorry, DJ Dango and JTG aren't here tonight. Maybe they'll be on the card, though. Heeb says, my Burke brick predictions are as follows. Kamille goes over AK on night 1. Kilynn King wins the Burke Cup on night 1. King defeats Kamille at night 2 to win the brick. Whoa, that's impressive, man. I mean, I don't know if I love it or hate it, to be honest with you. Kamille proclaims herself to be the one-time women's world champion. If she loses, is that it for her in the NWA? Kilynn King honestly has been very impressive since she's returned to the NWA. She's been a dominant force. I really feel like that could be a great match. And you're setting up so many things with that, the way that it goes, because if you put Kamille over, if you put AK over tonight, then she wrestles a Kamille and loses, and then Kamille loses to King, who was defeated by AK. Anyways, I think that's a great formula. I hope someone's listening. I hope you got some insider information, because I think that sounds pretty good. Lamb says that babyface Adonis could be something. Adonis worked as a babyface at the United Wrestling Network, and he was over with that Southern California snarky crowd. It's different. I know you guys have seen a lot of what the United Wrestling Network has done because of the relationship with the NWA in the past. We're very snarky out here in California. Promotions like the NWA, I think, would have a hard time succeeding out here because the fan base is kind of jaded. They want to see matches more akin to Pro Wrestling Guerrilla and AEW, and less more the story time, old school wrestling shows. Now, you would say that, hey, Dave Marquez has had a lot of success out here, and he has, but that's because it's based on the brand that he's built. Not the NWA, not guys like Trevor Murdoch, not guys like Jack Stane. Now, can these guys come out here and have great shows? 100%. But I guess the point I'm saying is if Adonis got over with a snarky Southern California audience, imagine what he could do in Nashville. Imagine what he can do in Oak Grove. Imagine what he can do in Knoxville. I think a babyface Adonis might be a great foil for, who knows, maybe Tyrus. Maybe back again with Jack Stain in that national championship. A babyface Adonis might be a lot of fun. Dave Scooby says Father James Mitchell is hosting karaoke at the Starcast, plus Harry Smith versus Killer Cross and Briscoes versus Von Erichs. As a side, and thank you for that information, Scoob. There is, so that means there is somewhat of a presence now. As far as we know, Harry Smith he's the NWA World Tag Team Champion. I'm not sure where he's connected anywhere else currently at the moment, but he does have history with working with MLW in the past. And of course, the Briscoes had that long. Briscoes are the Crockett Cup tournament champions. I'm sure they're still in line to get a shot at the World Tag Team titles if they are seen so fit. I just don't know how that works out with their deal with Ring of Honor and how long that's going to go for and how they're going to be a part of it. So, again, not so sure. But when I see a Von Erich name, Marshall Von Erich, I think, like, how awesome would it have been? It's not going to happen at Ric Flair's retirement match. It's not going to happen at the 74th anniversary show. But could you imagine, like, Trevor Murdoch versus Marshall Von Erich at perhaps maybe, I don't know, an event in Texas, Dallas, San Antonio, Austin, Houston, Fort Worth? Come on, DK, where are you at? I think if you put a Von Erich versus a Murdoch for an NWA World title in Texas, you're creating a license to print money. That's just my thought, though. Sean Mega even points out, what about Texas? Yeah, that's my dream match for any show in Texas, is that if Murdoch is your world's champion, have a Von Erich challenge for that title. I guarantee you'll have a draw. I guarantee it. Heebs also points out that another knowledgeable nugget that he got from Cage Match was that Jay Bradley has had the most NWA matches in 2022. Fixers rule! Of course he has. Jay Bradley is, again, we talk about underutilized talents. I love him and Wrecking Ball Legursky. I don't want them to break up at all. In fact, I want them to win the World Tag Team titles. I would love to see them beat Harry Smith and Doug Williams for those tag titles. But Jay Bradley has really been one of the unsung heroes of the NWA in 2021 and 2022. It's good to see him back with the NWA. We know that he was a part of the earlier pay-per-views they had. He teamed with Josephus. A lot of people don't know this. He teamed with Josephus at the Crockett Cup 2019. Just didn't really get to where they needed him to be, and obviously didn't make his debut on Power until much, much later. And then bringing it up, Harry Smith versus Killer Cross. Our buddy Lamb says that's under the MLW banner. Again, Harry Smith does have history with the MLW. Nick Aldis, said that Ric Flair requested him to have a match on that show, and I am not putting words into anybody's mouth. If Nick Aldis said that Ric Flair requested him to be on that show, I believe it 100%. But who and what capacity? Is it Aldis versus Murdoch? I'll take it, but it's not the match I really want to see. And then Heebs brings up, I think Aldis is in the Flair main event, maybe a 6-man tag, Jay Lethal and the Mortons versus Flair, Aldis, and Andrade. Whoa. Okay, I haven't seen that, and that's pretty damn good, man. I think that would be a lot of fun. Andrade, if you guys don't know, is actually either engaged or married. I think he's actually married. I think they finally tied the knot to Charlotte. Wow. So, like, Andrade, to a lesser extent, is a Flair through marriage. And, of course, Nick Aldis is the closest thing to a modern-day Ric Flair that we have right now. That would be pretty fun. Heebs, you're calling him like – I like what you're calling out this week, man. I don't necessarily need to see the Mortons. God, I don't want to see the Mortons at all. It actually makes a lot of sense putting Ricky Morton in the ring with Ric Flair, but that doesn't mean I want to see it. And Heeb says this is fantasy booking. It's not a bad fantasy booking, to be quite honest. Sean Mega says La Sombra. I think that's what they call Andrade in Mexico, I think. But anyways, Fiona says, I think Aldis is a good shout for that match, to be fair. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. The thing about the Flair Flair retirement show is it's not an NWA event, and as much as it probably should have been, and as much as Billy should have, worked a little bit closer with, Conrad or whatever to make that happen, it is not going to be an NWA event. So the 10 pounds of gold being defended on that show is not certain, and especially when Impact is having their world title defended, and a lot of other championships from other promotions are going to be there. It's exciting. Ebes, take off, brother. Have a good one. Fiona says, I'm still not convinced I want to watch Flair's Swan Song, though. You're not the only person to have told me that. And it's kind of weird, right? Because we all want to see Flair. Look, when Flair got beat by Shawn Michaels and that was it, we all thought that was the end. And it was a perfectly good send-off. And then Flair went to Australia and wrestled Hulk Hogan. And then Flair came back to Impact. And we thought he was done after the Impact. And then he, I don't know. I'm with you, Fee. I don't know if I want to see that match either. I don't want to watch a man die in the ring. I don't know if that's what Ric Flair wants. I don't know what's going to happen. It just seems a little too dangerous, to be quite honest. Flair like money. Yeah, Sean, you're right, man. Flair doesn't like money. That's 100% fact. Lamb says the Major League Wrestling, Impact, and New Japan are all involved. It's big. Really confused that the NWA is not really involved or even hold an event there. It's just it's wild to me, especially because it's in Nashville, and for at least the foreseeable future, that is the home of the NWA. I mean, we haven't seen them go back to Atlanta since Hard Times, and I don't think we're going to see them go back to Atlanta anytime soon. Wrestling with MMA says, I don't want to see it. I've watched the Michaels versus Flair match, and it did the job. Agreed. Again, I don't think we need it, right? We don't need it, but evidently Flair does. Getting back to tonight's card, again, we talked about the first two matches. Let's get to the next two. Brian Myers versus the Pope. You can't take anything away from Brian Myers. Phenomenal athlete. I've seen him up close and personal on United Wrestling Network. You guys seen him in the WWE. You've seen him in TNA or Impact, whatever you want to call it. Dude's a good athlete. He's going to have a good match with whoever he's in the ring with. The Pope needs this. The Pope needs this, daddy, because the Pope is the guy that needs to be the one to take the belt off of Trevor Murdoch. Now, that's what Jay Cal would like to see, and we're talking about fantasy booking. Trevor Murdoch, the seed's already been planted. The friendship has already been eroded. The Pope respects you, daddy. Sorry. When I start talking about the Pope, I want to be the Pope. He respects Trevor Murdoch. He's said it point blank. I respect you. I'm proud of you. And he gets zero connection with his former pal, Trevor Murdoch. It seems as if they're not even friends anymore. Maybe that friendship is over. And maybe it's because Trevor Murdoch feels jaded by the Pope. Maybe Trevor Murdoch feels that when he lost the title, the real friends disappeared. Nevertheless, you can't take away that the Pope had an amazing run as TV champion, something that has not been recreated yet in the NWA since, with all respect to Jax Dane, Chris Adonis, Tyrus, Anthony Mayweather, Homicide. Well, let me leave Homicide out of that. There hasn't been a title as exciting or a title run as exciting as what the Pope had as TV champion, with the exception of maybe Homicide's run as junior heavyweight champion. That is pretty comparable to what the Pope's doing. So we'll see, right? But if I'm a betting man, if I get my say, if anyone's listening to what J. Cal has to say, the Pope is the one that wins this match tonight and goes on to the 74th anniversary show to challenge Trevor Murdoch. More of your comments I want to see. Willie agrees with me. Pope for the win. Lamb says, as he mentioned it on Discord, Pope has a losing streak going on. It's a must-win situation. Yeah, man, he did. He lost to Mike Knox twice, and he lost his only shot at the World's Heavyweight Championship. Excuse me, he lost to Mike Knox once, I think, but he also lost to Matt Cardona. Correct me if I'm wrong. But Sean Mega says his money's on Brian Myers. Damn, Sean. Like that, huh? Like that? Brian Myers, the outsider, huh? And then, of course, what I can only imagine is going to be the main event tonight has really been the match that has made this version of the NWA, the matchup, the personalities, the conflict, the titles, the history, the friendship, the bitterness, the enemies, the frenemies, whatever you want to call it. This match right here, Tim Storm, Nick Aldis, one last shot that Tim Storm gets for the 10 pounds of gold. Mama Storm would be proud. Tim Storm has never given up. He's been much less of an active competitor over the last year and a half than he has been over the previous times. But every time he goes out there, whether it be like the 74th anniversary show or working as a tag team wrestler in certain occasions, he's always put on a hell of a fight. He's a world's heavyweight champion that carried the NWA in some of its darkest days. I mean, let's talk about Tim Storm as a world heavyweight champion here. Now, you can't even find his entire title defense record on most sources because, well, people weren't keeping track of Tim Storm as world's champion. People didn't care about the 57-year-old world heavyweight champion. Now, of course, back then he was, not 57, he's closer to 52. But the point still remains. The point still remains that as world's heavyweight champion, a belt he held for 414 days after being a the North American champion, after having won many titles in the NWA, defending the title in Hackensack, New Jersey against Rodney Mack. He beat Jack Stain to win that title. Let's point that out. But defended the title against Rodney Mack in New Jersey, defended the title against Ryota Hama in Tokyo, Japan, defended the title against Matt Riviera in Arkansas. Now, Matt Riviera at the time was one of the more well-known names in the NWA. That was kind of a big deal. He lost to Big Daddy Yum Yum by DQ at the benefit for Lance Hoyt, who at the time was injured and was having trouble paying his medical bills. Defeated Brent McKenzie. Now, if you don't know who Brent McKenzie is, go look him up because that dude is a legit badass. He doesn't look like a bodybuilder. He doesn't look like your prototypical pro wrestler, but he looks like a guy that'll punch you in the face and make you apologize for having to do it. And then, of course, victories over Nick Aldis and Josephus before eventually losing the 10 pounds of gold. To Nick Aldis in New Jersey. His return to New Jersey. So again, it's a very exciting night for the NWA. Again, I really feel like they're going to put that best foot forward, and you're going to see some really cool stuff tonight. Hopefully it leads up to the 74th anniversary show. Now, let's get to some more of your comments. Sean Mega says, my money's on Aldis. And you could be right, my friend. You may as well be right. But I'm hoping you're wrong. And it's not because I dislike Nick Aldis. No, that's not the reason at all. I think it's been almost in a calendar year that Nick Aldis has not been world's heavyweight champion. And the great thing about that is even though he hasn't been world champion, he's still been very present. He has challenged for the 10 pounds of gold on not just one occasion, but now 2 occasions. Of course, he was supposed to go one-on-one against Matt Cardona at Always Ready, but Matt was injured. Of course, that never happened, but he did get to challenge for the title in that six-way. Trevor, Samuel Shaw, Nick, Thom Latimer. I guess 4-way. Anyways, our pal Brian Rosa's in the house, and he says, check out AEW Dark tonight. Don't usually plug Dark, but good matches tonight. That is gospel. If Brian Rosa says you guys should check out Dark tonight, I think he's telling you that you should check out Dark tonight. I think there's a pretty good reason for it. Brian, thank you for the heads up. I will make sure that's in my viewing habits this evening. Willie Bowen says it's going to be a great match between Nick Aldis and Tim Storm. I really think there isn't a bad match on the card tonight. And this is, if the NWA is really doing this, if they're really going to start this race for the chase, again, maybe this is a new standard for Power. Maybe we're going to get more credible matches. Maybe we're going to see more credible wrestling from the NWA. And I know that's hoping for a lot, and that's with the expectation that things are going to rapidly change. I don't know what's going to happen tonight, but I do know that I'm very excited for what's going to happen in these next 4 matches. Let me get a drink. You know, and going back to Tim Storm as world champion, there were people that were trying to get him to essentially drop the title for a payday and to walk away from the NWA. And that was talked about in the 10 pounds of gold. If you've heard some interviews with Tim Storm, he's mentioned it. Now, he hasn't said which promoters, and I'm not gonna try to out anybody, but the man went in to the new ownership with so much dignity and respect and integrity and class. And that's why he got over so well with this new NWA audience. When the 10 pounds of gold series debuted, and they pulled back that veil, and you got to meet the man, Tim Storm, not the traditional way of how wrestling is introduced to champions in the past. But you got to see an inside look. You got to see the husband, the father, the grandfather, the school teacher. I mean, you didn't just know that Tim Storm wrestled. You didn't just know that he was from Pine Bluff, Arkansas. You got to find out who the man is. And one thing we know for sure is that he's a man of integrity, a very good dude. And having been able to speak with him on multiple occasions, I can totally reaffirm that Fiona says he's an absolute class. 100% can back that up. Lamb says this episode is a big one, and the wrestling is improving on the NWA shows. Got to give it to them finally. Like, look, Lamb, and if you listen to the podcast on Thursday night, you'll hear my honest and DKM's honest opinion of the show. And some things are stupid. Some things suck. But overall, the show has gotten better. Overall, since the pandemic, I'm happy that it's here. If I wasn't being paid to watch this, if I wasn't doing paid, guys, I'm not really getting paid. But if this wasn't connected to my website, if this wasn't connected to my podcast, if we didn't do a live stream every Tuesday, I would still watch the show and still talk about it with my friends like DKM or NWA Gold Tim or Jeremy Wrestling with MMA or Lamb or any one of you guys. Really, we'd still be talking about this. If I had no podcast, I'd still be doing this because I enjoy it. But I will call it a crap when it is crap, and some things have been crap. Lamb also says Tim Storm also mentioned it that he got one of those offers in Japan in an interview sessions with J Cal, available on YouTube. And that's why Lamb's my best friend. I hope you guys know that. Yeah, I had a great interview with Tim. And yeah, I mean, he was offered to drop that belt in Japan. Big money. Sean, if there was a way that if Tony was giving out checks, I would have gotten one already. We could change formats, guys. We could change. This will be AEW's pre-party. Just kidding. I don't even watch the show. I don't. I'm sad that my guy Scorpio Sky lost his title. You know, I know Wardlow's a big deal, but Scorpio Sky is my buddy. I'm not going to say he's my best friend or anything. He doesn't come over to the house for picnics, but Scorpio Sky and I have been pals, acquaintances for, 20 years. I mean, I remember watching Scorpio Sky when he used to wrestle with the Mask and cutting promos at Pro Wrestling Guerrilla or Revolution Pro, or his debut matches in Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, the Best of 7 series with Austin Aries, or his feud with Joey Ryan, or his feud with Adam Pearce. I mean, Scorpio Sky is a guy who's really kind of done it all in the indies, and I feel like he's even got more gas in the tank. He's even better. Anyways, Bobby Petito. Bobby, I haven't seen you around in a while. Hope you're good, man. Homicides defended the junior heavyweight championships against BSK last Sunday on USA. Haven't caught that one yet. I was hoping to watch it today, but just ran out of time. I'm really looking forward to watching it tomorrow. That's typically when I watch the Saturday shows on Wednesdays. Unfortunately, just works out that way. But you know, VSK is a good talent. He's not Homicide, but he's a good talent. So I'm sure they put on a great match. I hope it's a good one anyways. So as we're getting closer to the end of the hour, again, I'm I'm very hopeful for tonight's show, and I say that a lot, but this time it's a very pure, genuine hope with this race for the chase. I had an epiphany earlier today just thinking about how important this is and how meaningful it can be for the NWA. And if this is treated with the dignity and respect and integrity that Billy Corgan has treated that 10 pounds of gold for the most part of his tenure as executor of the NWA, as the owner of the 3 legendary letters in pro wrestling, I do feel like this is going to be a big moment for the NWA. And again, I'm not big on 3-ways, which this tournament looks like what it's going to end up. But if it's one of the 3 guys or one of these 6 guys who gets to go and face Trevor Murdoch at the 74th anniversary show, where they actually got competitors who are going to go out there and earn the right to wrestle for that title, not giving it to somebody because they showed up and had a high, TikTok followers, not giving somebody a shot because they had a magical cash in, but somebody who's actually earned it by beating the best competition in front of them, then by all means, let's have one of the best matches for the 74th anniversary show. So with that being said, please check us out tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific as the other Alliance guys, and that's Dave Scooby, that's Jeremy, and that's Tim, NWA Gold, and Jeremy Wrestling with the MMA, as they will cover what's going to happen tonight, what happened on Saturday, and a slew of other NWA-related topics on the other guys' podcast, the other Alliance guys' podcast, right here on this channel, almost the same time. And then, of course, the Alliance guys, the granddaddy of them all, the one that started this whole shebang. We predate everyone when it comes to talking about the NWA because we've been doing it for 14 years. That's DKM and myself, sometimes joined by Jaden, sometimes joined by Kevin Lee Frazier, sometimes joined by Tim or Jeremy of the other Alliance guys. And we'll be talking some more NWA there. And, Sean Mega. As I'm closing up the show, Sean Mega does some fantasy booking that I think I'm down with. Or maybe Corgan will announce a surprise first week buy for Jack Stain. Now you're talking, man. Anything to advance Jack Stain, I'm good with. I don't need Jack Stain to win the World's Heavyweight Championship for a second time. I mean, I'd be all about it. I'd be so for it. But he doesn't need to. I mean, he's already cemented his legacy as being a Grand Slam champion for the NWA, and in an era where he did it in 2 different eras. I mean, look, he was defending the tag titles in New Japan Pro Wrestling. He was defending the world title against New Japan Talent. I mean, the dude has already cemented his legacy, but the fact that he came back to the NWA, regained a title, the national title, actually a title he never really even lost, to be quite honest with you. If he got an opportunity to wrestle for the 10 pounds of gold in a similar fashion to Tim Storm, it would be a very gratifying experience for me, and I'm sure for a lot of you who are longtime fans of the NWA or Jack Stain. I would be all about that. We still have Tyrus out there who has an opportunity. I mean, he needs one more victory, just one more win, and then he could challenge for that title. Lamb is reminding me that it is time to go. I mean, we have a few more minutes, but we'll just wrap it up here. Again, pre-parties are on Tuesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern. The other Alliance guys, Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern. And, of course, the granddaddy of them all, the Alliance guys podcast, will be 8 p.m. Eastern on Thursdays. I really do appreciate the conversation, guys. I really appreciate your time. You guys make this so much fun every Tuesday. Now, we were planning to give out – I feel really bad because I keep essentially the person who won the title, the NWA Gold's title, has not answered any messages, any DMs, any effort to try to get a hold of him to give him his prize. So we're officially declaring the drawing null and void, and we'll be doing that drawing again this Thursday. We will have a name. We'll have Tim on the show, hopefully, if he's not too busy, and we will talk about which title that's going to be given away, the Royal Crown or the 10 pounds of gold replica. And we will have a winner we'll announce on Thursday night. So I hope you guys will be there for the live show. If not, you can always check it out on the replay and on the podcast network. But we'll wrap it up here, guys. Again, thank you so much for being here. It's a lot of fun. And until next time, we'll see you at the matches. Thanks for joining the stream. This has been a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you'll never miss a future episode? I'd also like to remind you we do a live stream every Tuesday at 5 p.m. before NWA Power. You can find us on social media at The Alliance Blog. And until next time, we are The Alliance.